Hey, I'd like to do a video on how to strip in quilting and sewing. I posted earlier about this and I got a couple of laughs about it. I mean for it to sound like it did anyway. I'm going to show y'all about stripping and making a quilt. And I'm going to put this on my YouTube channel. Alright, what you're looking at is an empty plastic big fat container full of all of my scraps, all different sizes, and usually if you want to make one of these one day and you're just new at starting to sew or whatever, save all of your scraps, and if you can, cut them into strips before you throw them in your fabric bin. As you can see, some of mine are in strips that are already, like that, and some of them are in some pieces that are too little to make like a dress or something out of, and so I'll have to cut those as I go, but that's not a problem. You will need, of course, all of your remnants or your scraps, and all of these are about 10 years of my hobby, so I can pick out a piece of fabric and I can remember exactly where I bought it, just about where it came from. Sorry to say that I made a beautiful Hannah Montana quilt, but we don't do Hannah Montana anymore. But it's pretty, and it was popular back then. So anyway, this is all of my scraps. So you'll need scraps, and of course your sewing machine. And if you watch Missouri Star Quilt Company, if you watch their video and some other videos, they will tell you that you'll need foundation paper, and they sell that. Well, I am a thrifty missy, and I can always figure out another way. So, I got another table here with my small mat and my small rotary cutter for when I'm trimming as I go, and this will be like a two-part thing. But anyway, so what I do is I grab a pile of strips from that pile, or the bucket rather, I'll put them back. And what I'll do is I'll sit down and I'll make sure that they're at least about 8 or 9 inches. And if they're real long, like that piece, I just take my scissors and just cut it in half and eyeball it. You don't have to be perfect. And then what I do is I sit down and do that and sort out a whole bunch of them. And then I got my little station in here in my dining room, and here's the sewing machine that I'm sewing on. And I'll have my little TV table set up with it's really good to have a small iron, because a big iron is just too cumbersome. And you can use a little clover iron, or you can get this little awesome thing that I love for like $20. And free shipping. And it does steam. You put water right there. Anyway, you need an iron. You don't even need pins or anything. You just need your 1/4 inch seam allowance foot, which I kind of know mine by eyeballing it. And I buy serger thread for this quilt. First of all, you can get it for $1.99. cheaper, with like 4 or 5 times the amount of fabric that's on a spool. And I use gray, and over there you see I got tan, because you got all different colors in the quilt, and you don't want to use black or white, because gray and tan will blend better. Okay, and back to the foundation paper that they recommend that you sew on. Well, I have some, but what I did was you can take an old telephone book and cut out some squares. But what is even better is go to the dollar store, and for $1 get you some coffee filters, the large ones. And all you do is you just put that puppy down there and you just iron over it, and it'll flatten out. And I'm going to demonstrate the sewing in another video, but that is for $1. There's, let's see, how many's in here? 700. That's 700 squares, but I'm going to come back in here and show y'all. Going back to the strips. They got all sizes, and you cut them down. Like this square here, you'll need a ruler too, a rotary cutter and a ruler, so you can get a perfect straight edge. You don't want to sew to something that's lopsided. When you get several sewn, like this is right here, this is a square right here that I have sewn on a coffee filter, and I have trimmed it to square, and I believe this is a 6.5 inch or 7-inch square. I'm not sure, but I remember that fabric. I remember that one, all of that. So it's like a memory quilt. So what happens is when you start sewing, that I'll show you. That's another one that's finished. You can do your squares where you're sewing in these strips, or you can do it where you start in the middle and you got all these pieces around it, so it's kind of circular. And I'll sew some like that to show you, but my back's killing me right now. I can't do it, and I'll have to have somebody to hold the iPod. Anyway, just say, for instance, you take a coffee filter. You're going to sew a strip of fabric on one side, just like this. See that seam? You're going to sew it to the one piece on top of the two strips, and you're going to sew them together onto that coffee filter. And then you're going to reach over there and press it open with your iron. And you're going to keep adding the strips on until the whole coffee filter is covered. And then you just lay them over. And this isn't a coffee filter, but it's the same idea. When you get that done, see how I've covered that whole thing? It's covered. You're just going to tear this off. And you want to do a tight seam. You want to do a 2 or, default is 2.5 on the new machines. You want to do a 2 because it perforates this paper and makes it a lot easier to come off, and it'll slip right off. I can't do it one-handed. Alright, so that's the idea. And these make beautiful quilts. And this is just another iron in the fire. And my fire has so many irons in it. That is terrible. But thank you, Jesus, for the picker-upper sticks. To see, since I can't hardly do anything much, I can just load this and put all my strips back. See, like that one, I would just cut into 10-inch little strips. And you don't have to be perfect. You just lay it on your mat and eyeball 10 inches if it's 10.5 or if it's 9.25. It don't matter, because you're gonna trim them all off. One more thing is, if you don't want to save your scraps, another good idea, you can make dog beds out of scraps. You just get you some denim and you stuff your scraps and just sew a square pillow. I know a lady that makes dog beds for the shelter. If anybody wants to donate their scraps to me, I will make sure they get to where they need to go. Also, if you would like to come to, I haven't been in a while because I'm not able to drive hardly, and sit very long. So that's why it takes me forever to sew, because I can't sit and sew for a long time. But I do it. Anyway, Project Linus, they sew for the military daddies. Hospice, of course, always loves quilts. If anybody wants to make a baby quilt, I will be glad to show you. I will be glad to show anybody how to sew. And I can recommend sewing machines without spending a whole lot of money. I do have some expensive toys, but I also know how to get somebody started very, very cheap and show you the odds and ends and how to cut corners, and you can make anything that I make. I never brag on my sewing because it is just straight sewing, and all you gotta do is just pay attention to what you're doing, and once you do learn it one time, it's it. So anybody can sew. So follow along with me. I'm going to sew more squares, and I'm going to show you how to sew 2 different kinds of strip squares for a strip quilt. So y'all can watch me strip in another video. And I'm watching Serena Williams. There's a glare, but she's whooping that girl. Hope everybody has a good day, and watch for my other videos. Oh, and one more thing. There's a group on Facebook. Of course, I don't have a business, but I named my hobby after Ben Cody, because I call him Coco. So I come up with cocoa beans. So I thought it was cute, you know, and I got all these cards. But then, you know, everybody loves Georgia Bulldog, so I kind of changed to Georgia Girl Sewing and Crafts. Well, there's a group on Facebook now called Georgia Girl Sewing, and they kind of stole my name. So I will be going back to cocoa beans, but I don't keep a page because I really don't do this for a living. I just like to do it, and I'm going to give most of my stuff away. But now I do charge for some stuff, and I have a list of people that are wanting me to sew for them. I just want y'all to know that I am very much incapacitated right now. I get out once a week to go to RU, and I don't stay for the whole thing there. And I just ask for everybody's prayers because I do need back surgery, and I'm trying to do something about that now. It's scary, but that's why I have my trusty stick. Alright? And I hope everybody has a happy Sunday. Watch for my other video.